Nancy seethed with anger, directed squarely at me, her husband, John Miller. It wasn't difficult to discern her mood. As I drove us home from a party hosted by Rose and Kirk Campbell, acquaintances of hers, she sat pressed against the car door, her expression so sour it could curdle milk. Her ire was justified, I suppose. After all, I had single-handedly marred her evening. What a fool I was, right? To embarrass my wife of a decade, the mother of our 3 children. Shame on me, indeed. How did I manage to disgrace her and spoil the occasion? Simply by choosing the wrong key. Unbeknownst to me, the parties thrown by the Campbells harbored a clandestine side, a side my dear wife, after 10 years of marriage, suddenly found herself drawn to. Unfortunately, my own inclinations were far from aligning with hers. While we had never before attended one of their gatherings, Nancy had heard whispers about them, and, through a network of connections, secured us an invitation. What Nancy failed to mention, however, was the unconventional conclusion these parties entailed. She neglected to inform me that, at this particular soiree, wives were expected to deposit their house keys into a bowl. Then, in a rather eyebrow-raising twist, husbands were to blindly select a key from the bowl and accompany the corresponding wife to her bedroom for private matters. As the festivities neared their end and the true nature of the evening dawned on me, I felt a surge of disbelief and fury. Never before had I been so incensed with Nancy. Without a word, I seized her arm and whisked her into the kitchen, my emotions boiling over. "Did you have any idea this party would end like this?" I demanded, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. She met my inquiry with a smug grin. "Of course I did." "And you didn't think to clue me in before we arrived?" I shot back incredulously. "No, because I knew you'd refuse unless forced," she replied nonchalantly. "I have every right to refuse, and you damn well know it. Let's just leave," I insisted, my patience wearing thin. "We can't just leave now. It would be rude. You'll embarrass me," she countered, her tone pleading. "And besides, it's only for one night. It'll inject some excitement back into our marriage." "That's not the kind of excitement I'm interested in. Let's make our excuses and go," I urged, feeling a surge of indignation. "But I need this. I need some excitement, just for one night. I want to feel like a woman, not just a wife and mother," she implored, desperation creeping into her voice. "It's only one night, one time, and it'll never happen again. Plus, I've already dropped our house key in the bowl, so we're committed now." "It's not too late, just watch me," I declared firmly, seizing Nancy's arm and guiding her back into the living room, where a crowd had gathered around the bowl brimming with keys. Nancy resisted, attempting to wriggle free from my grip, but I released her as I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the chatter. "Excuse me," I announced loudly, drawing the attention of the room. "I wasn't informed about this aspect of the evening's festivities, and I have no intention of sharing my wife with any of you." With determination, I delved into the bowl until I located the house key adorned with a red plastic cover that Nancy had deposited. Retrieving it, I turned to face the stunned gathering. As I mentioned, I was unaware of the party's rules prior to my wife bringing me here. "Adultery goes against my beliefs, and my marriage vows are sacred to me," I proclaimed, ignoring the murmurs and glares directed my way. Turning to Nancy, whose face had flushed crimson with embarrassment, I issued an ultimatum. "You have a choice right now. Come with me and leave this madness behind, or stay and never come home again. I'm leaving." All eyes fixed on Nancy as she grappled with her decision, her face a tumult of emotions. Finally, she spoke, her tone tinged with defiance. "I apologize for my husband's behavior. I would love to stay, but given the circumstances, I think it's best if I leave." Reluctantly and angrily, she followed me out to the car, her words of frustration trailing behind us. "You insufferable, selfish jerk. How could you embarrass me like that in front of everyone? We'll never be welcomed back there again." "Embarrass me, Nancy? How about the fact that you embarrassed me by even entertaining the idea of spending the night with another man?" I retorted incredulously. "Well, you were planning to do the same with one of the other wives, so why not?" she countered casually. I was dumbfounded. "I have no desire to be with another woman, Nancy. That's a private activity reserved for my wife. It's troubling to hear after 10 years of marriage that you're openly considering cheating on me. It's just one time, John. Out of all the nights we've had together and will have in the future, it's just one night with someone else. Is that too much to ask after being a good wife for 10 years? She pleaded. Yes, Nancy, it is too much to ask, I replied firmly. I can't believe this is so important to you. It means everything to me, John. I've been longing for this for weeks. One night where I don't have to be a wife and mother, I can be a woman having an adventure, feeling adored, spending a few hours with another man, she confessed. You mean you're one night out with another man, I corrected. In a sudden burst of frustration, I slammed on the brakes, executing a swift U-turn in the middle of the street and racing back to the Campbells' home. Nancy shrieked in surprise. What are you doing, John? If spending one night with another man means that much to you, Nancy, then go for it, I declared, pulling up in front of their house, where the other guests' cars still remained. It looks like you're not too late to join the fun, so go ahead, enjoy a night with some stranger. Maybe you'll find someone who can give you what I obviously can't, I concluded, the bitterness evident in my voice. John, it's just an adventure, something different. But I can't do it alone. We have to both participate. We each have to go with a new partner for the night, Nancy pleaded. I've already told you, Nancy. I want no part of it. I've never cheated on you, and I won't start now, not until we're no longer married, I reiterated firmly. What does that mean? She asked, uncertainty creeping into her voice. It means exactly what I said. It's decision time for you, Nancy. So, if you're going to do it, go and be with your friends. I'm sure they'll find a way to include a beautiful woman like you in their little game, even if she isn't accompanied by her husband, I replied, my resolve unwavering. Nancy's hand hovered over the door handle as she hesitated, contemplating her options. Softening her tone, she looked at me with affection. Would you pick me up in the morning, John, from wherever I end up? I'll call you and let you know. It would mean a lot to me. Not a chance, but I'm sure your new companion will be more than willing to give you a ride after spending the night with you, I replied tersely. He won't be my companion, just someone I spend one night with. It's nothing more, John. I love you. You're the only man for me, she insisted. Do you truly believe that? There's no way you can love me and go through with this. So let me understand. You're just seeking someone new to sleep with. Is that it? I questioned, the hurt evident in my voice. That's harsh, John. It's just one night with someone new. It'll be thrilling. Just a new experience with new sensations. It'll improve our marriage. Trust me, she assured me. Enjoy it, Nancy. I hope you understand the consequences, I said quietly. It's just one night, John. It's not too much, she argued. One moment would be too much, I countered. We have the rest of our lives together, she pleaded. We'll have nothing together if you go through with this. I'm begging you one last time. Nancy, please don't do this, I implored, my voice filled with desperation. You're completely overreacting, John, and I'm putting my foot down. I won't let you ruin this for me. I just want a little time with someone new, and you can't stop me. I'm going through with it, and you need to accept it and move on. Do you understand? Nancy's tone was firm as she asserted her stance. Tomorrow morning, you'll be history. Do you really think I could touch you after you've cheated on me? I countered, my voice heavy with disappointment. Now you're being absurd. I belong to you, and you'll want me just the same. I'll make sure of it, Nancy retorted confidently. Nancy, listen to me. If you walk back into that house, we're finished. Your one night will cost you your husband and your family, I warned, my heart aching with sorrow. No, it won't, John. We're married, and we'll always be together. We love each other, and we'll get through this. I'll make it right, I promise, she insisted, her voice tinged with desperation. You're breaking my heart, Nancy, I confessed, my voice cracking with emotion. Don't be so melodramatic. Just think of it as sending me on an exciting adventure, she dismissed my feelings. Exciting for you, the tragic end for us, I retorted bitterly. Once again, you're being unreasonable, John. I'll change your mind about that in the morning, you'll see, she assured me confidently. Do you honestly believe I would touch you after you've spent the night with a stranger? I questioned, my heart sinking. "You'll touch me, John, and much more. I'll make sure of it," she declared. "God, I never realized how blind you are. Get out," I said, my words heavy with finality. My words seemed to stun her, but she opened the car door and began to step out. "I'll see you in the morning, John," she called out. Shaking my head sadly, I sighed, "No, Nancy, you won't." And with that, as soon as she pushed the door to close it, I slammed on the accelerator, the tires screeching as I sped away, leaving her behind. Glancing back at her in the rearview mirror, I saw her standing on the curb, mouth agape in shock, unmoving as I disappeared from view. In my heart, I hoped she would call, admit her mistake, and ask me to come back for her, but she didn't. Tears streamed down my cheeks, blurring my vision as I grappled with the shock and grief of the situation. My wife, after a decade of marriage, had chosen a night with a stranger over our union. It felt like a betrayal cutting deeper than I could fathom. She seemed to believe I would simply brush aside her indiscretion, as if it were a minor transgression easily forgiven with time. But she was gravely mistaken. Long ago, my father had imparted a harsh truth. When a woman contemplates cheating, she has already breached the sanctity of the relationship in her mind. It wasn't just about physical infidelity. The betrayal lay in the breach of vows and trust. While it pained me to admit, our marriage seemed irreparably damaged beyond salvage. Yet amidst the turmoil, the plight of our 3 children, Samantha, Susanna, and little John Jr., weighed heavily on my heart. How could I imagine a life without them by my side every day? Yet, I couldn't let Nancy's actions go unpunished. With the children safely at my mother's for the weekend, I found myself driving aimlessly, clinging to a sliver of hope that Nancy would reach out, begging for forgiveness. But her silence spoke volumes. After much contemplation, I formulated a tentative plan and headed home. As I pulled into the driveway, my phone rang, shattering the silence. Despite my yearning for it to be Nancy, the caller ID revealed otherwise. I answered, greeted by the distant sounds of revelry, a stark reminder of the world moving on, even as mine seemed to crumble. "John, old buddy, this is Oscar Baker from the party. Your lovely wife passed me your number, hoping I could talk some sense into you. She's a real firecracker, thrilled about tonight's plans. Every guy here is hoping to draw her key. She's talking about giving someone a night they'll never forget. She wants you to be a part of it too. Things are heating up. Everyone's eager to find their match. There's still time for you to join us and pick a key. Plenty of eager ladies here ready to show you a wild time. Screw you, Oscar Baker, you manipulative scumbag, and screw your damn party, including my cheating wife. I hope you all rot in hell," I spat, hanging up before he could respond. It didn't take me long to pack my bags, stuffing enough clothes for a week or 2 into 2 suitcases. I grabbed my laptop and shaving kit, tossing everything into the car. Rummaging through a drawer, I found our wedding license, tearing it into pieces before smashing my wedding ring with a hammer. Once it was flattened, I placed the broken pieces on Nancy's pillow, locking the front door behind me as I left. I drove aimlessly for a while, eventually stopping by the Campbell's house. A few cars had already departed, and a handful of people lingered outside, pairing off for the night. Nancy was nowhere to be seen, likely already off with her new lover or perhaps with Mr. Campbell himself. The motel I found in the neighboring town wasn't much to look at, but it had parking around back, keeping my car out of sight. After securing my vehicle, I bought a 6-pack of Newcastle from the nearby convenience store, planning to drown my sorrows with a drink or 2. By the time I cracked open the 3rd beer, I was feeling a bit more mellow, settling in to watch some television. When my phone rang, I saw Nancy's name on the caller ID. Knowing she wasn't calling to reconcile, I let it go to voicemail, unwilling to entertain her excuses. "John, you're blowing this out of proportion. Oscar Baker filled me in on what you said. I've told you countless times, it's just one night. Letting someone else have their turn doesn't make me a cheater. And I swear, even if I'm a bit sore, I'll make it up to you like you wouldn't believe when I get home tomorrow. I know you probably don't care, but since you removed our house key from the bowl, they made a new one for me. The guy who got it is named Travis. He seems really nice, and he's promised not to push me into anything I'm uncomfortable with. He's married with kids just like us. Since you're at home, I decided to come back with him. His wife and her date are staying here too, but in a different part of the house, far enough away that we won't hear each other when things get heated. You know how loud I can be, she said, giggling like a schoolgirl. Honey, I know you're upset, but I promise I won't let him do anything to me that you haven't done. Travis agreed, especially since this would be my first time with another man. He's offered to give me a ride home tomorrow. I'll make sure to shower and freshen up before I get back. No sloppy seconds for you. Sweet dreams, love. See you in the morning. Love you, John. I felt like I was going to be sick. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine my wife would turn out to be such a foolish cheater. Sure, Nancy had always been a bit airheaded, but it had been part of her endearing charm. Now her foolishness was on full display and had cost her our marriage, and maybe even our children. There was no way she could expect me to take her back after cheating on me. I was seething with anger, hurt, and humiliation, and my wife couldn't care less. I knew I should have just ignored her message, but I couldn't help myself. I called her back, and she picked up on the third ring. Hi, honey. Travis and I just got comfortable, so I can't talk long, Nancy chirped. Shut up, Nancy. That may be the last you hear from me. You have no clue what you've done, but you're about to find out. I never thought I'd say this, but I despise you more now than I ever loved you. I can't wait to be completely rid of you. My lawyer will serve you next week. I spat, hanging up abruptly. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang again, her name flashing on the screen. I ignored it, letting it go to voicemail once more. John, her voice trembled on the brink of tears. Why are you doing this? How could you say those things? I'm your wife. Please, let me have this night. Travis and I just started, and now you're ruining it for me. I don't know if I can enjoy it anymore. We're not getting divorced. I'll be home tomorrow morning, and we'll work through this. I can't come back now. I promised Travis I'd stay. Please try and understand. I love you, John. Don't end our marriage over this. I have to go. I called her back, the call ringing several times before diverting to voicemail. You shattered my heart, Nancy, and I'll never forgive you for it. You kept your promise to Travis, a man you just met, but you couldn't honor your vows to me, your faithful husband, for over 10 years. I don't even recognize you anymore. You won't see me in the morning, and you may never see me again, but next week you'll be served with divorce papers, and I'll press charges for adultery. You're officially a cheater now, free to do as you please. But know this, you've lost me forever, and I intend to keep that promise. Nancy didn't return my call. Whether she received my final message or not, the damage was done, and our marriage was beyond repair. I refused to entertain the idea of reconciling with someone who had treated me with such disrespect and humiliation. I forced myself to finish the last of the beer, unwilling to spend the night dwelling on the painful thoughts of my wife's betrayal. The alcohol helped numb the pain, and I eventually drifted off to sleep, tears still staining my cheeks. 4 hours later, I awoke to the harsh reality of my situation. My once beautiful marriage had been tarnished by Nancy's infidelity, and I needed to formulate a plan to protect my children, rid myself of her presence, and ensure justice for the humiliation she had brought upon me. Living in Biloxi, Mississippi, where adultery was grounds for divorce, presented an opportunity to seek legal recourse without facing the burden of alimony and possibly even secure custody of my children. I knew I needed the best legal representation available. After showering and changing clothes, I called my mother at 7:30 to update her on the situation. She shared my shock at Nancy's actions and assured me she wouldn't mention anything to the kids. I promised to retrieve them once I had a plan in place. Despite my reservations, I acknowledged Nancy's past devotion as a mother and wife, but her recent actions had irreparably shattered our bond. Following the call, I headed to the diner nearby for breakfast. As I parked and made my way to the entrance, my phone began to ring. It was Nancy. Contemplating whether to answer, I ultimately let it go to voicemail. Strangely, she didn't leave a message, opting instead to call repeatedly. On the 5th attempt, she left a tearful voicemail. John, please answer the damn phone. Talk to me, damn it. What do you mean I may never see you again? And divorce papers? You can't leave me, John. I won't allow it. We have 3 precious babies who need us both. My God, Why did you tear up our marriage license and smash your wedding ring? How could you do that? I gave you that ring on our wedding day, and you promised to wear it forever. It's a symbol of our eternal love for each other. I knew you'd be upset, but I never imagined you'd go this far. I love you so much, John. I just needed this special night with Travis. It was special. He made me feel alive again, like a young girl. I forgot what it felt like to laugh and scream at the same time. But John, you're my man, my only man, and I know exactly how to make it up to you, to make your hurt feelings disappear. Please come home so I can prove my love to you. Come home, please. She started sobbing, her words becoming almost unintelligible. Damn you, John. Why can't you understand? I just needed one night with someone new, to feel something different. Please, John, talk to me. I love you. You and our children are my world. Her voice grew weaker, the sobs overtaking her. The message ended, leaving me stunned outside the diner. Had these thoughts been brewing in her all our married life? And now, in her mid-30s, they suddenly surfaced. Nancy was still stunning, with her average height, shoulder-length dark blonde hair, and light blue eyes. Her figure was captivating, her breasts neither too big nor too small. Yes, her hips had widened after 3 kids, but she still turned heads wherever she went. So what was this about needing validation from another man? I showered her with love, brought her flowers, and spent quality time with her regularly. I told her every day how beautiful she was and how much I loved her. Until last night, our marriage felt perfect to me. What had I missed? Despite my diminished appetite, I pushed myself into the diner. Seating myself at an unoccupied table, I mechanically ordered scrambled eggs, toast, and black coffee. Despite consuming less than half of my breakfast, I mindlessly drained at least 6 cups of coffee. Never before had I experienced such profound emptiness and despair. I finally understood the sentiment of those who wished for death. The sole reason I found to persist was the thought of my children. They were my anchor in this storm. For their sake, I needed to endure the wreckage Nancy had wrought upon my life and pave a path to a brighter future for them. With that resolve burning within me, I knew I would press on. I just needed to determine the way forward. Throughout the day, Nancy bombarded my phone with calls, each one a painful reminder of the betrayal she had inflicted upon our marriage. I refused to answer, allowing her desperate pleas to go unanswered, each voicemail a testament to her selfishness. Not once did she express remorse for her actions or acknowledge the pain she had caused. Instead, she insisted that I should support her need for that one night of indulgence. Her calls felt like a relentless assault on my wounded heart, each one driving the blade deeper. It was hard to fathom her level of ignorance and disregard for our marriage. However, amidst the agony, a glimmer of hope emerged. I now possessed ample audio evidence of her infidelity, a weapon I could wield in court. While uncertain of its legal weight, it provided undeniable proof of her betrayal. Determined to seek justice, I resolved to find a competent lawyer the next day and gather all necessary information. That night, after one of Nancy's calls, she forgot to disconnect, inadvertently allowing my phone's recording software to capture her words. Seeking solace, I visited my children at my mother's house. She informed me that Nancy had already called to inquire about the children's well-being and my whereabouts. Mom relayed my anguish over Nancy's actions and my reluctance to speak or see her. Nancy, in tears, pleaded for understanding, but my mother reassured her that no man could comprehend her actions. When Nancy suggested retrieving the children, my mom suggested they stay a few extra days until the situation settled. The children greeted me with excitement, their innocent curiosity, seeking answers about their mother's absence. I gently explained that she was occupied with a special project, and they would be staying with Grandma a little longer. We spent the evening playing games and sharing dinner, cherishing these precious moments together before I bid them farewell and returned to my motel. Tomorrow promised to be a hectic day. Before calling it a night, I felt compelled to make one last stop, a drive-by of our house. Tears welled up as I beheld the familiar sight, mourning the loss of what was once ours and could never be again. Surprisingly, there were no unfamiliar cars in the driveway. With only the kitchen light casting a soft glow, I assumed Nancy was alone, at least for the night. Despite everything, A pang of concern tugged at my heart. I still cared for her, though I knew reconciliation was impossible after her betrayal. Despite my better judgment, I succumbed to the temptation to spy on her. Parking a block away, I approached the side of the house and peered through the kitchen window. There she sat, a disheveled figure surrounded by tissues, an empty bottle of Grey Goose testament to her distress. My initial sympathy quickly turned to ice as the reality of her actions resurfaced. I wanted to lash out at her, to scream my pain and anger, but instead, I silently retreated to my car. As I drove away, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was beginning to grasp the magnitude of her betrayal. If she sought solace, she could turn to her newfound companion, Travis, for comfort. Monday dawned, and I faced the day with determination. Breakfast at the diner was a somber affair of eggs, toast, and black coffee, but this time I forced myself to finish every bite. Afterward, I made calls to my mother and each of my children, reassuring them of my love and promising to see them soon. Then I contacted work, informing my executive assistant that I would be attending to personal matters for the next 2 days and to reach out if anything urgent arose. She sensed my distress but respected my need for privacy, promising to support me in any way she could. During my final year at Ole Miss, I shared an apartment with 2 dear friends, Edmund Robinson and Frederick Harris. Though our paths diverged after graduation, our bond remained unbreakable. With degrees in computer science, business administration, and law respectively, we each pursued our own careers, but made a point to stay connected. I reached out to Eddie first, explaining that I needed his and Freddie's counsel on a serious matter. He readily agreed to meet, promising to bring Freddie along, and we arranged to convene at the lava bar by the beach. I arrived early and settled at a table on the patio. When Freddie arrived, followed shortly by Eddie, our reunion was marked by warm embraces and hearty greetings. We found solace in each other's company as we ordered drinks and began to delve into the weighty conversation ahead. "What a mess," Eddie remarked sympathetically, leaning back in his chair. "And to think, we were just talking about our college days like it was yesterday." "Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around," Freddie added, his brow furrowed in concern. "No kidding," I sighed heavily. "I still can't believe she had the audacity to do something like that, let alone flaunt it." "So, what's the plan?" Freddie asked, his tone serious. "I want a divorce," I stated firmly, "and I want to make sure she doesn't get away with it. Travis, whoever he is, and those people at the party, they need to face consequences. But most importantly, I need to fight for custody of my kids." "That's going to be tough," Freddie cautioned, "unless she's unfit as a mother. If she's generally been good with the kids, she'll likely get custody, and you'll be looking at child support payments." "I can't imagine not being able to see my kids whenever I want," I admitted, my heart heavy with the thought. "It's possible," Freddie reassured me. "The courts tend to favor joint custody arrangements, as long as both parents are capable." "What about finances?" Eddie interjected. "You're the breadwinner, right? How are your accounts looking?" I nodded, a sense of unease settling over me. "We have a fair amount saved up, between checking, savings, investments, and retirement funds. Probably around 700,000 or 800,000, maybe a bit more. The courts will likely split your assets down the middle, give Nancy the house in custody, but if you can prove she committed adultery, and it sounds like you have a strong case, you shouldn't have to pay alimony," Freddie explained, his tone serious. "Do you know a really good divorce lawyer?" I asked, feeling a glimmer of hope. "As a matter of fact, one of the partners in my firm is one of the best family law attorneys in Mississippi. Her name is Molly Moore. Would you like me to set up an appointment for you?" "You bet, and the sooner, the better." "In the meantime," Eddie chimed in, "I'll see what we can do to protect some of your assets. Send me all the information on every dollar you have, and I'll get to work on it." We toasted each other once more, had a few more drinks, and bid each other good night. Suddenly, I felt a sense of relief I hadn't felt since this whole ordeal began. As I drove back to my motel, my mind racing with all the tasks ahead, my phone rang, and it was Nancy. I hesitated for a moment, then realized I couldn't avoid talking to her forever. I pulled over and answered. What do you want, Nancy? I said, cutting straight to the chase. What do you think I want, John? I want my husband back home where he belongs, she replied, her voice strained with tears. Well, unfortunately for you, your little lark with Travis makes it impossible for me to ever come home again. I responded, my tone firm. She broke down in sobs. Don't say that, John, don't you dare say that. I just had one night away from you after 10 years, and that does not qualify as grounds for divorce. Think again. Adultery is definitely grounds for divorce in Mississippi, I stated firmly. Why do you keep calling it adultery? It was just one night with someone new, just a fling, Nancy pleaded. When a married woman sleeps with someone new, whether it's for one night or 1 second, that's cheating. I told you that once you crossed the red line and cheated on me, it would be over between us, and I meant it, I asserted. Oh God, please, John, you can't do this to me, Nancy pleaded, her voice trembling. You did it to yourself, Nancy. What the hell happened to you? Are you on drugs? Have you had a mental breakdown, or are you just unbelievably foolish? I think you were so captivated by the idea of cheating on me with another man that you didn't care about our children or my feelings. You just had to do it. And here's the thing, you did it and now you're facing the consequences. I thought we were truly happy with a nice house, 3 wonderful kids. Our married life was great. And then you ruined it all by getting involved with some stranger and dragging me through it. I expressed my frustration palpable. We were always happy, John, and we are happy now. I just wondered what it would be like to be with another man for one lousy night in our long lives together. Just sample someone new with no harm done, that's all, Nancy attempted to justify. No harm? You somehow don't understand the harm you've done at all. You have, in one night, completely destroyed our family because of your selfishness. You shattered our lives into a million pieces that have no hope of ever being put back together again. For starters, Nancy, you broke my heart, though you've made it obvious that you don't care about that. Remember me, your husband, the man who has loved you without question from the first time I saw you. The man who works long hours every day to give you and the kids the kind of life you crave. You spat in my face and abandoned me so you could be in the arms and the bed of a total stranger. You gave him the parts of your body you swore in a ceremony 10 years ago would only be mine. You made that vow in front of God, both our families and all our friends. More than that, you rubbed my face in it last night, letting me know without question that you were going to do it, no matter how much I beg you not to. You basically told me to go screw myself. You're going to do whatever you want, and it's none of my business. I poured out, the pain evident in my voice. I never meant it to seem that way, John. I don't know why, but I didn't think I was hurting you. I just wanted to do something new. I love you. It was never about you. It was something I needed, Nancy explained, her voice filled with remorse. And that's the thing that did you in. You took your husband out of the equation. Your whole affair with Travis last night was all about you and him. With no thought of me or your children, I replied, my tone laced with disappointment. I deserved a special night just for me, Nancy insisted. Well, good for you, your Royal Highness. You got it, and it cost you your marriage to me and very likely your reputation with your family and friends. There may come a day when I forgive you, but I will never forget, and I'm going to let everyone know just what you've done. Just like you called me a big baby for being upset about your cheating, I'm going to see how you react, knowing that everyone will hear your confession that you let Travis do what he did, I asserted firmly. Oh God, John, please, you can't do that. My parents will die if they hear that, Nancy pleaded desperately. Too bad, Nancy. You should have thought of that before you did the deed. You made your bed, filled it with shit, and now you get to lay in it. You seem to think that what you did was the same as getting a traffic ticket or failing to return a library book. You traded a really solid 10-year marriage to a man who adored you for an affair with a complete stranger. Was it worth losing your family over all this? I challenged. I wasn't supposed to lose anything, John. You were supposed to love me enough to support me and let me do it, Nancy reasoned. There's not a sane man on this planet that would support his wife in having an affair just because she wanted to try someone new for a night. It doesn't work that way, and you should have known that. What were you thinking, Nancy? What made you do it? I questioned, incredulous. I didn't think you'd be so upset about it. I'm serious, John. What's so terrible about it? What I did to Travis doesn't mean I love you any less. I heard about the couples getting together at the Campbells, and somehow it just made sense to me. Why can't a husband or wife experience new feelings, new sensations? I've decided I want and need it. It doesn't mean I love you any less, John, just that I need a new experience with a new man, at least once, and then I'll rededicate myself to you and never do it again, Nancy pleaded, her voice wavering with emotion. But that means you don't respect me. I've asked you over and over, begged you not to do this, and all you do is smile and say, "I'll see you in the morning, John." You robbed me of the intimacy you and I shared for over a decade. Vows that meant so little to you mean everything to me. We had 3 beautiful children who loved us both. Together, we were a family. We belonged exclusively to each other, and now you've willingly given a part of yourself to another man. And for what? A nice time and a one-night stand. You say it was just one night and I should accept it and get over it, and I say it was nothing less than a complete and total abandonment of me, your family, your sacred vow of loyalty and devotion, and any respect you ever had for me. You wanted to sleep with another man, and you did. Congratulations, you got what you wanted, but the truth is you threw everything you supposedly valued and held dear into the gutter. Part of me still loves you, but I will never be a part of your life again. Damn it, John, why are you so stubborn? Why can't you understand that it was just something I needed and get over it? I'm yours forever. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed, Nancy. You're not exclusively mine anymore. I don't know why you can't understand that it was something I begged you not to do. I cannot forgive and forget. You willingly betrayed me, and I will carry that wound with me the rest of my life. I found a lawyer, and I'm filing for divorce tomorrow on the grounds of adultery. I'm naming your lover Travis and every other person at your little get-together I can identify as party to the divorce. And just imagine what the backlash will be when your adulterous friends find out you are responsible for the breakup of their little club and possibly the destruction of their reputations. Throw it hell, Nancy, and take all your buddies with you. As soon as I stepped into Molly Moore Esquire's office, her demeanor assured me I had found the right attorney to navigate the chaos my life had become. Straightforward and no nonsense, she wasted no time in getting to the heart of the matter. She wanted to know the reasons behind seeking divorce and the outcomes I aimed to achieve. I explained that I anticipated relinquishing half of my assets to Nancy and would aim for negotiation, offering our home in exchange for a reduced cash settlement. Realistically, I understood that obtaining full custody of my children, even with adultery as grounds, might be challenging. However, I insisted on unrestricted access to them and refused to pay alimony. Playing the damning audio recordings of Nancy's admissions of infidelity, Ms. Moore expressed disbelief at my wife's blatant confession and the audacity to leave such evidence in voicemails. She suggested the necessity of a voice recognition expert to authenticate the recordings, but assured me they would likely hold weight in court, bearing an unfavorable judge. The remainder of our consultation focused on strategizing against Travis and the other participants in the wife-swapping party. While monetary damages seemed improbable, Ms. Moore proposed exposing their activities publicly to inflict significant embarrassment. Satisfied with this approach, I provided a retainer and requested prompt service of Nancy. Ms. Moore assured me she would handle the matter swiftly and keep me informed throughout the process. On Tuesday afternoon, I retrieved my children from my mother's care and returned them to Tracy at our home. When she reached out to me with a hug, I couldn't bring myself to reciprocate, causing her eyes to well up with tears as she pleaded for me to stay. I gently explained that I couldn't, but reassured her that it would be good for the kids to be back home with her. I promised to pick them up on Friday for the weekend. Despite Nancy's evident struggle, I knew she had brought this upon herself, and her hardship was no greater than the pain I was enduring because of her. Wednesday marked my return to work. I realized I couldn't neglect my job. Now more than ever, I needed the distraction, not just for the paycheck, but to preserve my sanity. I was determined not to succumb to the despair and self-pity stemming from Nancy's betrayal, especially for the sake of my children. On Thursday evening, I reconvened with Eddie and Freddie, this time over dinner at the Half-Shell Oyster House. As we indulged in charbroiled oysters and dirty martinis, I updated them on my kids and the divorce proceedings. Eddie had explored avenues to safeguard some of my assets, and I greenlit his efforts, acknowledging that every bit helped. We brainstormed a plan to disrupt the wife swapping club without risking legal repercussions. Freddie had a contact who worked as a reporter for the Biloxi Sun-Herald newspaper. With the location of the Campbells' home and approximate meeting times in hand, he proposed an expose highlighting the prevalence of wives swapping in Biloxi. By gathering discrete photos and alluding to involvement from certain businesses without naming names, we could incite outrage within the community. Armed with this strategy, I provided Freddie with the limited information I had, and he pledged to commence his investigation. With newfound optimism, we bid each other farewell, knowing we had a plan in motion for the next steps. The weekend with my kids was nothing short of delightful. We indulged in shopping for new clothes, caught a Disney movie at the Grand 18 in D'Iberville, and spent a blissful day on the beach, frolicking in the waves and playing frisbee. Their joy was infectious, reminding me why they were the center of my universe, and I resolved to never let them go. Come Monday morning, Freddie reached out with promising news. His contact at the Sun-Herald was enthusiastic about the story idea and was devising ways to discreetly capture photos of the couples entering and leaving the Campbell residence. Though faces would be blurred in a town of this size, the pieces would inevitably connect, potentially making headlines by the week's end. I crossed my fingers, hoping for a successful outcome. Despite Nancy's persistent calls, pleading for my return and promising to do whatever it took to mend our fractured relationship, she remained steadfast in her refusal to apologize or acknowledge her wrongdoing. Wednesday brought a flurry of updates. First, my attorney informed me that Nancy would be served at our home on Friday morning. Then Eddie shared that he had devised a plan to protect a significant portion of my assets by placing them under my children's names. Finally, Freddie called with a breakthrough. His contact at the paper had uncovered that the wife-swapping enthusiasts were slated to convene at the Campbell residence once more on Friday night. With plans to stake out in an unmarked van across the street, capturing images of the attendees, he aimed to secure one final interview with me to provide insight into the party's proceedings. If all unfolded as anticipated, the article would make waves in the community in the coming week. With each update, a sense of relief washed over me, buoyed by the prospect of closure and justice. Friday arrived, and as anticipated, I received the call from my attorney, confirming that Nancy had been served with the divorce papers. Soon after, my phone buzzed with Nancy's number flashing on the screen. Curious, I debated letting it go to voicemail, but ultimately decided to answer. "Hi Nancy, what's up?" I greeted her, bracing myself for the impending confrontation. "What the hell have you done, John?" Her tone was far from cordial. "I filed for divorce, just as I said I would," I replied evenly. "And I told you there would be no divorce. And adultery? One night with another man doesn't count as adultery, John." "Sorry, Nancy, but I beg to differ. In Mississippi, what you did constitutes adultery." Her voice broke into tears. "Why are you being so cruel, John?" "I love you. It was just a fling." "Oh, forgive me, Nancy. I must have misunderstood that sleeping with someone other than your husband wasn't considered cheating. My mistake, but it's done now. I warned you. I begged you not to, but you did it anyway. Now you have to face the consequences, and I suspect your troubles aren't over yet. Goodbye, Nancy. Have a miserable life." With that, I ended the call. The truth was, despite everything, I still harbored love for Nancy. Perhaps I always would, but trust, once shattered, couldn't be pieced back together, and I couldn't remain married to a woman who betrayed me. I wrestled with the idea of driving by the Campbell's house on Friday night, despite knowing I should steer clear. Curiosity got the better of me, and I wanted to check if Nancy's car was parked there, even though I suspected she'd skipped the party this time. As expected, her car was nowhere in sight. Still, she could have hitched a ride with someone else. The party's couples-only rule didn't seem to be airtight. They'd made exceptions before. I spotted a van parked across the street, likely housing the reporter. I silently wished him luck in exposing their indiscretions. The outcome was swift. The next afternoon, Freddie's journalist friend called, eager for my insights. He'd snapped over 100 photos, recognizing over a dozen prominent couples entering and leaving the residence, curiously not always in the same pairings. He assured me that Nancy wasn't among them. He wanted details about the key parties, which I reluctantly provided based on what I'd gathered from Nancy and other attendees. Though I hadn't witnessed the key picking firsthand, I painted a vivid picture based on descriptions. Before ending the call, he sought my permission to vaguely hint at the impact these parties had on marriages, including the dissolution of one, resulting in children bearing the brunt of their parents' decisions. As long as no names were implicated, I gave him the green light. The newspaper article, splashed across the front page of Sunday's edition, ignited a firestorm of controversy that spread like wildfire. Spread over 4 additional pages, it featured a multitude of blurred photos, capturing couples arriving and departing from the party, though many were still easily recognizable by their vehicles and attire. These were the elite of Biloxi society, after all. By Monday, the scandal was the hottest topic in town. Ministers spoke out on radio and TV, lamenting the moral decay in their Christian community, while civic leaders bemoaned the tarnishing of the city's reputation as the jewel of the South. Lawsuits flew back and forth, but to no avail. Prominent businesses saw their customer base dwindle, and several couples found themselves embroiled in bitter divorce proceedings. For me, it was a deliciously satisfying form of retribution for the agony I endured due to the loss of my wife and the disintegration of my family. If some people connected the dots and realized I'd been betrayed, I couldn't have cared less. My revenge was sweet, and that was all that mattered. Epilogue. Despite Nancy's persistent efforts to reconcile, I remained resolute in my decision to stay separated. The divorce proceedings concluded, and I secured shared custody of our children. We've settled into a routine where I have them during the week, and Nancy has them on weekends, with a switch every other week. It's not ideal, but we're making it work. Surprisingly, Nancy didn't contest anything in the divorce, so I decided not to share the incriminating audio recordings of her affairs with her family or friends. As for the couples involved in the key parties, several of them faced divorces and left town, perhaps driven out by the scandal. Nancy has begun dating again, and while I'm not sure she fully comprehends the gravity of her actions, it's not my concern anymore. I wish her future partners the best of luck. As for me, I've dated a few lovely women, but I haven't found the one I want to spend the rest of my life with just yet. Some have suggested moving in together, but I'm still cautious about fully committing again. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you soon.